It's time for the College of Bass with Kevin VanDam and Steve Pennaz.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to College of Bass. I can't believe it's already episode 7, and thanks for joining us tonight. Kevin, I suspect you're on your way to Sam Rayburn, huh?
Yeah, we're knocked down 12 hours today. I've got 6 more tomorrow. So this week's kind of cool because I got standing right next to me. I got Brandon Ozarzak. He's one of the film guys that we work with at Strike King and Lose, and we're doing kind of a really neat series called Kings of Bass, which is kind of behind the scenes. So he's filming me on the College of Bass right now. Yeah, see, here's stepping here. See, there's Brandon.
Hey, so, Brandon, how are you?
Yeah. So it's going to be fun, you know.
Yeah. Hey, I know there's some big storms rolling through the southeast right now. So I know Brian Latimer, we've got him scheduled, Plano Pro. We're really hoping that he can get internet connection, but there's a chance that Brian might not be able to make it tonight. But and I hope anybody that's listening tonight, if you are dealing with storms, that you guys have a safe night and get through this well. Hey, I guess out of all the questions we've had, Kevin, electronics have been huge. And I know you've been looking forward to tonight just covering electronics.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of misconceptions, and I think, we're going to cover a lot of things to open people's eyes to understand how, side imaging works and, Mega 360 and 2D sonar and mapping, live. How it all, live, all of it, how it all matters and what, the strengths of each one. And it's obviously the single greatest thing that's changed the sport of professional fishing and just everyday fishing. How successful the average weekend angler can be with how good electronics are now and how much better they are and how affordable they are too. At all levels. So obviously we're talking on tour, the state of the art,
Yeah.
If you'd have told me 20 years ago I needed 5 units on my boat, I'd have told you were crazy.
I was wondering if you're going to 6 yet, but yes.
It's coming.
It's coming. Yeah. So we get to go into that. Hey, before we go any further, I want to remind everybody that we've got next week as our last show, Kevin. I can't believe it's gone that fast already. Fast. But I highly recommend, if you haven't seen all the shows, if you want to go back to the Plano Fishing's YouTube channel and check it out. All the episodes are housed there. And Kevin, I believe you have them on your YouTube channel as well. So
absolutely,
if you missed the last 6 episodes and you want to watch tonight and Sundays or the next week's, go for it. So that's pretty exciting. So, hey, the other thing we want to do before we go any further too is we want to congratulate Juan Maldonado, I think I pronounced that right, from Smith Station, Alabama. He won the Plano Prize Pack last week, and we're going to be giving away another one of these tonight. It's worth $275. It's got some great prizes in there. The KVD signature box. So we got a couple edge boxes, give you your edge, and some Strike King lures as well. And what's really cool is we got the College of Bass Yeti tumbler as well. So that's pretty cool.
Yep. Yeah. This we carry it everywhere we go, and one of the cool things is the Professional Bass Fishing Hall of Fame is the beneficiary of all the proceeds from the sale of these Yeti Rambler mugs. So it's the most popular size, the 20-ounce size for sure. And they just announced, so I just saw the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame just announced their dates for the fall banquet, and real soon they're gonna announce this year's inductees too. So I'm pretty excited to see who's gonna be the next members into the hall.
That's really exciting. So get your own mug. They're limited edition. There's not many left, so check it out. Hey, by the way, there was a message on Facebook last week from Dan Seymour. He said he needs to win the prize pack because his 11-year-old son's taking all his gear.
Yeah. No, hey, I've got to do one other quick thing. So I got to give a big shout out to my old roommate, Scott Rook. So I'm at his house. I stopped in Little Rock. I was a little concerned about stopping at a hotel. If you look at my background, it changes every week because of, my road schedule and that. So, I'm stopped in here. I know I got good service, so we're going to have a great show. So Scott and I go way, way back, and it's pretty cool that he's let me do it out of his house.
You guys used to travel together all the time. Correct?
Oh yeah, we for years and years and years. Him and I and Davey Height all roomed together on tour on the Elite Series for many, many years. So we had a lot of fun.
That's really awesome. Hey, last week we had Plano Pro Clark Wenlett following his Angler of the Year on the Bassmaster Elite Circuit. And one of the most passionate followers of this podcast is actually an artist, a world-class artist, Doug Shermer. And he did this piece, I believe, for Bassmaster following Clark's win last year. And it was all about junk fishing docks. So I thought it was pretty cool to have him share that with us tonight. So I think that's really cool. But Kevin, we had a ton of questions last week, and I wanted to bring a few of those up, and we'll get to some later in the show. But the first one was from Sean, and he had a question that he said that how do you cycle through the various retrieves, determine to what the fish really want? And it's a brilliant question.
Yeah, that's a great question. And one thing I want to bring up is last week, we did a lot of questions. We get a lot of questions every week, but next week's show, and it's going to be our last one, we're going to make it special. We are going to dedicate the whole show to answering viewer questions. We're going to do it rapid fire. We're going to go through a lot of information. So if you've got questions, send them in. Definitely through the week this week, send them in to either, to my Facebook or Instagram. We're going to be posting about it, to Plano's, and we will get to a lot of questions next week, but let's start now. So retrieves are critical. What I try to do is experiment with different retrieves until I find what the fish, until you get a good response, and then duplicate it. So, sometimes it's start and stop. Sometimes it's speeding up just a little bit, but almost never is it a straight, steady retrieve. In cold water, sometimes a slow, steady retrieve is the way to go, but it's always different. You always got to keep experimenting until the bass give you a positive response. And until that happens, I'm going to be changing.
What's cool too is if you're fishing with a partner, a lot of times if one of you fishes a certain way and the other fishes a different way, as long as you don't do everything exactly the same, a lot of times you can get on that pattern just a little bit faster, which is really cool.
And it's all about paying attention to exactly what happened when you got the bite and duplicating that.
Yep. And Lee Kimball, who's been very involved for several shows, he's got a question. He says, hey, what are some of the tools that you use to safely handle and release bass?
Well, there's a lot of ways to do it, and a lot of it depends on the boat you're in. So on our tour, on the Major League Fish and Bass Pro Tour, we are not allowed to use net. So we got to do it by hand. And I've had hooks in my hand, so you want to be careful. But, especially if you got a deep V boat or anything like that, a good net and a net that is designed to help take care of the fish is important. And Frabill makes, a whole series of conservation nets just for that. It's still the fastest, most efficient way. And the most important thing is just try to handle the fish as little as possible. Get a good picture of him and then get him back in the water. Don't let him flop around in the bottom of the floor. Get him out of that net quickly, lip him, and get your pictures and either put him in a live well or release him.
I've had a chance to fish. I fish out of a deep V a lot. And the thing that really blew me away about that net is the flat bottom. The fish don't lay in there rolled up, and They seem very comfortable, so they're not rolling around a lot, and so it's easy to get the fish out. But that's a great question as well. We had another one from John Vest Jr. He says, I don't have much luck with the lipless crank. Recommendations?
Well, the biggest thing that I think a lot of people do wrong with a lipless crankbait like a red eye shad is fish it too fast. You got to make sure that you're contacting something with it. Make sure you're hitting the bottom, you're hitting grass. If it's not hitting the bottom, let it sink until it does. Make sure it's ticking off something, and it'll do the work for you, especially this time of year when the water's still cold. The ice is just going off in the north where I'm from, and down in Rayburn, I'm thinking the bass are going to be spawning. So that season, or that prime season, is probably past down there, but it is an all season lure, and it's all about varying the retrieve.
The other thing I found too is if you're not having success with the lure, leave the dock with nothing but that lure and commit to learning how to fish it. Because when you got a lipless crank, they're so good, it's hard not to learn how to fish it.
Absolutely. It's a bait you got to have in your tackle box.
Yeah. And then we had Kevin Ballinger. He had another question. He said, what made you want to go pro? And I'm just getting rid of a pop-up there. And, who was your favorite pro before you became a pro?
Well, I'm going to tell you, when I was a kid, real young kid, the first fishing show that I ever watched was Championship Fishing with Virgil Ward back in the day. And most people probably don't know who that was, but it came on every Sunday, and it was something that I looked forward to watching. And I learned a lot, from that show. That's where I learned about spinner baits. My first spinner bait was a Bass Buster beetle spin. And, from there it was the scorpions and that. But I mean, since then, I became friends with a lot of pros. I've had a lot of help from a lot of guys. And what inspired me was the drive just to compete. I wanted to see how good Rick Clunn and Larry Nixon and Denny Brower and Guido Hibden. And, those are the guys that I competed against. And, I grew up watching Hank Parker and, Bill Dance. Bill Dance is still one of my, a great friend. And Roland Martin. I did a term paper on Roland Martin's 101 bass catching secrets book. So, these guys paved the way for me. And it's funny because I talk to a lot of young kids, especially you see this huge influx in college and high school fishing, and now it's technology is everything. They're all watching YouTube videos on their phones and, learning all kinds of tips. And you can read, I grew up reading Bassmaster magazine and all these different things. There's so many more opportunities to learn than there was when I was a kid. But I just had a passion for it from an early age, and I just feel fortunate that I've been able to have such a great career at something I love to do.
What was it like fishing against these guys when you first started on the circuits? What surprised me is I was super intimidated. I was so shy and so intimidated when my first tournament I fished was in 1987. And I got intimidated by one of the big name pros. I drew out first day of the tournament, invitational. And I learned a great lesson that day. I had a tough day on the water. It was 1,000 Islands. It was super rough. It was a bad, deal, but I learned to have confidence in myself and my own patterns and that. And it, because I had a bad day my first trip, it's probably the reason I'm sitting here today. That's amazing. Hey, our first guest tonight is Brian Latimer, B-Lat. He's been fishing the MLF Tackle Warehouse Pro Circuit this year after fishing Bassmaster and other trails for years. And Brian, we'd like to welcome you to College of Bass. I know you've been fishing MLF the last couple of events. How's it been going for you?
Yeah, it's solid. 2 solid events. Weren't my best events ever, but it was 2 solid events, and we're kind of sitting in that cut line to make the championship. But we got a lot of fishing left. There's no reason to start talking about how well it's going yet. We're just getting started, and there's a lot more fishing left before we can kind of start talking about how the season's going, in my opinion, anyway.
So how many circuits have you fished over the years? I know you fished Bassmaster. Were you on FLW as well?
FLW Tour. I've only fished professional level, only the FLW Tour. I've fished Bass Opens on and off for about 7 years now.
Wow. So what convinced you to get into competitive fishing?
That's all I've ever done. My dad was a tournament fisherman, so I kind of grew up around tournament fishing, and I just always thought I was supposed to fish tournaments. Like I don't. I've done other sports and stuff, but I think nothing really has ever challenged me the way that fishing does. I think that's why it's kind of kept my interest over the years, because it's hard. Like fishing is hard.
It's different every day, man. You're right. You come from an area that a lot of great fishermen have came from, and bass fishing is obviously deeply entrenched in there. And there's a lot of great lakes in that region that are very unique and different. But what I like is I love your attitude, man. That's one of the things I've always said is like, man, I'm all about the attitude. And you're always smiling. You're always positive. You always got a great spin on things. You're always trying to help people. You're always, working hard. You're always trying to teach people. And that's something that I truly appreciate.
Well, that's gosh, to have Kevin VanDam say that about you is we can cut it off. I'm done now. Good. Got nothing else to say to me.
Hey, you're not going to get off that easy. I do want to talk to you both about, I know, deep cranking, guys. And so we're really looking for some tips on deep crank baiting. Kevin, I'd like to start with you and kind of just talk about, some anglers do struggle with deep cranking. What are some of the initial tips on making this a more productive pattern?
Yeah, probably one of the most important things is making sure that you've got the right combination. And when I mean combination, the right bait, the right line size, the right rod, and reel combination gear ratio to be efficient. You want that bait running just a little deeper than the depth zone you're trying to cover. And that changes. So for every foot difference in depth, if you're fishing a 15-foot ledge or a 10-foot ledge or an 18 or 25 or whatever it is, you want that bait reaching its maximum depth just a little deeper than the water you're fishing. And that's where the bait is going to have its best action. It's going to have its best triggering qualities. And that in itself is a little bit of work. And it's easily accomplished with different sizes of line and different series of baits. And it does take experience, but it's something that I've worked hard on over my career to try to master. And you never master any technique, but it's something that I've had a lot of success at over the years. And it's something I love. I mean, a crankbait is so efficient for those deeper zones. It's the bait that I can cover that water with the quickest, and it also has some of the best triggering qualities. So it's just something I've got a ton of confidence in, and confidence goes a long ways in any technique.
Yeah. So Brian, are you a huge fan of deep cranking as well?
No, not at all. Not at all. It was just where I live. That's just not really a thing. Just our structure is way deeper. We don't have a lot of structure in that 10 to 15 foot range. Everything is 25 foot and deeper where the bulk of the population of the fish live. So I just didn't grow up in an area where we had the place to do that in. And I know a lot of times it seems I've watched this pattern over years. It seems like our tournament trails, they've always had these repeat or like almost trends to where they hit a lot of Tennessee River lakes for a little while, or they hit a lot of Clearwater lakes for a little while. Yeah. I'm new to the game, and I've only fished Kentucky Lake once or twice, been to Chickamauga once. So we haven't been to those lakes where it sets up for deep cranking a whole lot in my career. So not growing up in an area where deep cranking is really a thing I haven't really thrown them that much. I only own a few of them, but I have watched a lot of tournaments where Kevin VanDam has railed on them good. My area is more of a soft plastic, even top water type of deal. Shallow cranking is big. Shallow cranking is one of the things I feel most confident in. And it's one of those deals where, I've caught a lot of fish in before it's fishing any kind of crankbait that dives deeper than 10 foot. That's just not my wheelhouse. Just not something I've really spent a lot of time with, quite honestly.
Well, I can tell you that Brian will attest to this, is that, and I've spent a lot of time fishing the lakes in your area in the Southeast, and the blueback herring changed things there, no question. But guys that are really good and have a lot of confidence in any technique, they tend to make it work in a lot of places where it shouldn't. And that's a lot of times how you win tournaments, is you do something different than anybody else in that area has. And I've had a lot of success in those lakes in the Southeast throwing a deep crankbait, especially in the pre-spawn and that. I thought I was going to win a couple classics at Hartwell, and it just the weather conditions changed. But Clarksville, Murray, I've done it in a lot of those lakes. But it's the same thing. It doesn't matter if you're Bobby Lane and you're a Florida puncher. He'll throw a dang heavyweight and on a boat dock, and just doing something different in a lot of cases can be successful. But deep cranks are it's just like any technique, sight fishing or anything. There's a science to it. Something I've spent a lot of time at of it, and the Tennessee River is, you mentioned Kentucky Lake. That is the premier, Kentucky, Pickwick, Wilson, Wheeler, the whole Coosa River, but it happens a lot of places, North Carolina, High Rock Lake, you look at David Fritz, what he did at Bugs Island, that whole region up there.
He would come here and catch them on them. You're right. When the old Jerry Ryan days, I remember he would come to like Lake Huey and catch them on deep diving crankbait. But one thing that you mentioned, just kind of hanging around the true professionals for a couple of years, I've got to be somewhat friends with a couple of guys that have been fishing a very long time. And one thing that you said that I think means everything, that puts this conversation in context, is one thing I've noticed is like most of the really long time professionals, they're really only good at 3 or 4 things, 3 most of the time, 4 at the max. And having confidence in just 1 or 2 techniques is what I found out to be like, that's what settles out those up and down tournaments, is when you got something you can put in your hands and have that confidence to throw it for 3 days in practice. Or that's what professional fishing is, that I've kind of learned over the last 5 years. I thought it was like knowing how to do all of these things, and it's actually more like getting 3 things that you really have confidence in and learning how to fish it everywhere. It's helped settle out my tournaments. I know when I first started, I'd have a 30th place and then I'd have a 120. Then I'd have a 20th place and then I'd have a 90th. And once I kind of started getting 3 or 4 techniques that I really felt confident in, it seems like everything's kind of just settled out a little bit, and I can take those. I've really only got like 4 things that I really know that I have true confidence in when it comes down to it. So I do remember, Kevin, in 2008, are you catching those fish down at the dam at Hartwell on like a 6XD? And I was looking like, what? Who does that? Like nobody does that around here ever. So you're right about that.
So we are getting a ton of questions on this. Kevin, if you want to achieve the right depth, I mean, you talked a little bit about it. You look at the bottom of the bait. A lot of these baits are actually listing now what exactly at the bottom, what the depth is for it. But talk about, here's actually a dredger that says 17.5. So you're actually pitching a bait. So in this case, you would probably pick a bait that runs that depth in 15 feet of water. Talk about the effect of line choice on running depth.
Yeah. So first off, if I'm cranking, I'm using straight fluoro. Fluoro sinks, and it's going to allow you to get the maximum depth. It's the perfect blend of low stretch, and it's invisible in clear water to the bass too. And you can get the distance, and it cuts the water better than even small diameter braid. So it's all about that size. I have my own series of cranking rods that I do for Lew's. They're composites. They're a mix of glass and graphite, and they're built for making a really long cast. They load and unload a little bit easier. It makes it easier for you to fish these big baits, to not only cast them, but to crank them. But it's a blend of the line size. And if I'm going deep, I like 12-pound Bass Pro XPS fluoro. If I'm trying to make the bait run a little shallower, I got the same rod rigged with 14 or 17 or even 20 to make it run a little shallower, bigger diameter line. And, that CC4, that CC5, and that CC6, they're 7.4 actions to 7.10. They're built to make it easy for you to lob. I mean, I can lob a 6XD and it goes 50 yards. I can take a 10XD and I've laser rangefinder to cast to 80 yards with that bait. You got to have a reel that'll have the capacity to do that. So if those big baits, like the Lew's Super Duty or the BB1 Pro is one of my favorites, and you want a gear ratio that helps you work at it too. I want to I don't want too fast of a reel. Some guys like a fast reel. Now, I'm not saying you fish it slow, but I want a reel that has power, so it makes it, again, physically easy to throw these things all day long. And that's the system that I use, to make it better for it. And then to use the right bait, the Strike King XD series of baits, the 5XD, the 6XD, the 8XD, and the 10XD, they are the gold standard in deep crankers. I mean, they're the most copied deep diving baits out there, and they're the winningest deep diving baits on the market too. And I mean, I'm not saying there's not other good baits now, because other companies have again, came out with them, but they are fish catchers, and it's the foundation of my system. And they all have their different depths. And that 5XD is a great 15-foot to 17-foot bait. The 6XD is a great 17 to, I can get one 22-foot on the right cast. If you got the right setup, I can get it well over 20 foot. And a 10XD is an easy 25-foot bait if you want it to. But in a lot of situations, you want them to go shallower. You want these baits, again, reaching their maximum depth about a foot deeper than the bottom you're fishing. And that's critical to get that liveliness and to keep the action, the triggering quality. And speed is another thing that's so important. You know, in the summertime when the water's warm, you know, I'm not cranking fast to get the bait down there, but when it hits the bottom, even though I'm using a reel, I like a 25 inch per turn, 25 to 28 inch per turn reel. So that's a little bit lower gear ratio reel, but I'm going to wind that handle fast once I get it down there and let that bait do that deflecting. And that's what triggers them. It's almost like a dang jerk bait when it's skipping off the shell beds and the stumps or the rocks, or even just sand or mud. It's making a lot of disturbance. And do the same thing, just like we were talking about starting and stopping, like we were talking with lipless baits. You know, speed kills, but also changes in direction, and the speed itself makes a big difference in triggering fish. 2
comments. I mean, are you fishing heavier line? 12, 14, 15 seems really heavy to me for some cranks. Is that because of the casting? And then 2, maybe if you are grinding bottom, you want that abrasion resistance, or what is it?
Yeah, if you're trying to throw 8-pound fluorocarbon with a 6XD on a 7'10" rod that's built to cast that sucker, 50, 60 yards like that, you will shock break that line. I like 12 because anything less than that, I run into a little bit of trouble, and you're grinding the bottom. And so many of our lakes now, especially where I live up north, we got zebra mussels and that. The difference in depth between 10-pound and 12-pound is only a few inches. And the difference between 8 and 12 is, again, it's not even really a foot. And these baits are so much better designed than we had 10, 15 years ago. I mean, we didn't have a bait that you could legitimately hit 20 foot with 15 years ago. You couldn't even come close to that. Now we got baits that easy, 20 is easy to hit.
So one of the questions I had too, in terms of obviously the crankbaits take probably a third of the cast, maybe 25% of the cast to get down to their max depth, and then they run bottom and then they run up. How are you positioning your boat on structure when you're fishing deep cranks in terms of, say, weed lines or break lines or, big flats or something? But talk about boat positioning.
Well, Brian he'll back me up on this. The one thing we try to do with any technique all the time is you want to keep your bait in the strike zone or where you feel the bass are sitting, the potential strike zone, for as long as possible. So current is part of it. You want the bait coming with the current or across the current, but you also want it in front of them as long as possible. So we're going to try to fish it down the edges or at a quartering angle along an edge or a weed edge, especially. You want to keep that bait right on the outside. And when we're talking deep cranking, we want that bait down on the bottom. We want it hitting something. So that is absolutely critical, that you got the boat positioned that way. I mean, there's times when you may sit up shallow and throw out deep when you got a spot they're sitting on. And if I've got a key spot on a ledge at Kentucky Lake, yeah, I'm going to change my casting angle to try to trigger some more bites. But day in, day out, it's, I'm going to be pulling it from shallower to deeper, and I'm going to try to position the boat so that I can keep that bait in the zone where I think the bass are at for the maximum amount of time. Just like if I'm going to fish a seawall and I'm going to throw a spinnerbait, if you parallel that seawall, that spinnerbait is right down at the whole cast, so that's maximizing your chances.
So Brian, how does this compare to some of your shallow cranking in terms of, technique, just overall thought process?
I know one thing that I've seen, I used to be a guide here when I was kind of transitioning from my day job to professional fishing. I was a guide quite often in between tournaments. I think boat positioning is underrated when it comes to how deep a crankbait will dive, or how, hitting structures, so forth. Even with the shallow diving crankbait, it has your boat positioning it's almost like your footwork is the way I like to think of it. I played tennis in high school, and if you weren't in position to hit the ball, you never could hit the ball right. And it's the same way when you're throwing a crankbait. If you don't have your boat in position, relative to the structure, relative to the bank, I don't care for shallow cranking, I don't care for skipping docks. Boat positioning is way underrated. Everybody talks so much about all the other equipment, but it really doesn't even matter if your boat is not in position for your bait to hit the structure right, or for you to make the right cast. So for me, just as important as everybody asks what pound test line, everybody asks what crankbait, everybody asks about the hooks, but really none of that really matters if you don't position the boat right to make the cast, to hit the structure, or to even just shallow cranking. When it comes to fishing a piece of wood, I won't make a cast at a piece of wood or a dock or even riprap corners. I won't even attempt to make the cast until I know that I can confidently make that cast with the boat position that I'm in. Because I'm going to do one of a couple things. I'm going to throw up there and get hung up because I didn't wait. I wasn't patient enough to get the boat in position to pull off the cast, or I'm just not going to hit the structure right. So I think one conversation is lost when it comes to any kind of cranking, shallow or deep, is just boat position.
I got a question for both of you guys. Maybe I'll start with you, Kevin, but talk to me a little bit about colors. What are some of your favorite colors for deep cranks based on, water clarity, clear water versus, shad lakes and other things?
Yeah, most of the time when we're deep cranking, it's a summer primary technique, and shad are the big forage in a lot of the lakes in the south. So I'm going to mash the forage in clear water conditions for sure. Second, shad is the foundational color for me. I've caught so many bass, won a lot of money with that. But if the water's a little colored up, I like chartreuse powder blue back, something like that can be really, really good as well. And in natural, real clear water lakes, the green gizzard, the bluegill patterns, things like that. Here's a photo of some of my favorite cranks right there. I mean, some 10XDs hanging off the box there, 5s, 6s, 8s, and a mix of good colors. But you notice a lot of them are shad type oriented colors, and then the storage for them too. So like my 5XDs, I like to keep in, that edge 3700 deep stowaway, but that big crankbait box is really underrated for your big top waters and baits like 10XDs.
That's awesome. And Brian, in terms of colors, do you have some favorites as well in the waters you fish?
Yeah. I really, like I said, cranking is probably one of the things I'm most confident in. I got like 3 colors. It's going to be some type of shad color. And then it's going to be some type of crawfish color. Either the browns or the reds. And then it's just going to be chartreuse black, chartreuse blue. I mean, everything, that's the foundation of every other color every color that I use. It may be some variation of that, but it's going to be something loud chartreuse, something red or brown, and something in the shad pattern.
Yeah, I know you're a fan of the edge boxes as well. Are you running the same ones that Kevin is up with your cranks?
So I actually, check it out. I use all the boxes. It depends on what type of crankbait it is. I just sent Chris a picture earlier this week where I took the jig box, Spro rock crawler. I have no affiliation with Spro, but a rock crawler is one of my favorite crankbaits to throw here at home. And that jig box is the perfect box to put your Spro rock crawlers in. So like I'll try to use other boxes that are not meant for crankbaits for my crankbaits. A lot of times I've used the crankbait, the small crankbait box. I'll actually cut out the little appendages in there so that my handmade plugs will fit in those. So like I've used all of them. I just don't want my crankbaits moving and shaking around. So I've tried to experiment with them and come up with different ways to store crankbaits.
That's awesome. Hey, Brian, we're going to have to let you go. Thank you for the time tonight, and good luck on the circuit. We'll be following you. So, Brian Lattimore, everybody, have a great season, man.
Thanks, Brian. Good luck, man.
We'll talk later. Wow, we covered a lot on deep cranks. Is there any other points that you want? I did have one other question for you. I know you're throwing a 710 rod. Bassmaster was obviously limiting length to 8 foot. Have you played with 8 foot, 9 foot rods, and what'd you find out?
So I did build some prototype 9-footers, and it gets a problem with storage. And it comes to a point too where the balance is just so bad. They're just so heavy on the front end that it just doesn't feel good, And so I've kind of come to where my favorite rod for throwing the big plugs, a 6XD and an 8 and a 10, it's a 710, maybe 711, but boy, you get much longer than that. And my rods don't have a super long handle. I don't want that handle gets in your way. And it's just, I think I want to keep that reel closer to me. I want to get that rod a little tighter to my body. It just is a lot physically easier on my arms and elbows to do that. I mean, I've had so many people say, man, I can't believe you. I watched you all day at, at a tournament at Kentucky Lake or something. Say, you threw a 6.6D from start to finish. I can't believe that you could physically do that, hold up. And a lot of it is the rod, the reel, and the line to be able to manage that. It just physically makes it a lot easier. I mean, I've worked hard to build that system to make it easy on my body too.
Well, part of it too is just getting in fishing shape. It's funny, after a long winter, people laugh, but I mean, 12, 14 hours in a boat, you've got to work into that. It's very physical. It's very physical. Hey, we need to move on. I want to really get into electronics right now.
A lot to go on electronics.
We got a lot to go on it. And so here's how I want to frame the conversation. Talk. I mean, I know you've got some things. Let's start with mapping, start with 2D, maybe go with side imaging, wherever you want to start. I really want to, I want to sit back and listen on this one.
So electronics are something that has changed the game for all of us in pro fishing for sure. And they have come so far. And even what you can get now for less, not a lot of money is unbelievable. But, so much of it is not just the sonar, but it's the map, GPS mapping is a big part of it. Without a doubt, I can credit Lake Master Mapping as one of the biggest things that's helped me win a lot of tournaments. The mapping along with sonar, with mega side imaging, with 2D sonar. And now, we've got forward facing sonar. We got Mega 360. We've got Mega Live is coming. So I'll get asked a million times about this. So, Lowrance has theirs out. You've been using Garmin's for a while. Humminbird has theirs coming really soon. It's going to be awesome. I can't wait for it. They're still prepping it. They're looking at some different tweaks and things. And that's what's awesome is that the competition between the companies has driven these products to be a lot better, and they've helped anglers catch a lot more fish. But foundationally, I think the biggest thing is people don't understand how sonar works or how mega side imaging absolutely works. And so let's just get into that a little bit right to start with from the beginning. 2D sonar was all we had forever. And basically, if you wanted to learn about a spot, you had to graph over the top of it, drive your boat back and forth over the top. Yep. And your cone is, 15, 18, 20 degree cone. And you just, to find a single stump on the end of a point, or even find the end of the point, you had to zigzag back and forth and really disturb the spot. It's good, but in 2D sonar is still important. If you want to go down the lake at 60 mile an hour, you still have to have 2D sonar. I mean, yes. I will never be without 2D sonar, but down imaging and especially mega side imaging has changed the game. So what it did, instead of looking at a matter of a few feet, a 20 degree cone, now we're looking at vaster expanses. And side imaging, basically, if you think of it like a flashlight beam, that transducer's on the back of your boat and it's shooting out side to side, and it's in the cone close to you is tighter, and the farther away from the boat, the farther it gets, the wider it gets. And so one of the big things that people struggle with it is determining what they see, or, if they see an object on your screen, a stump or a rock or a fish or a tree or whatever it is, it's like, well, how big is it? And, you can kind of tell how far it is because you set the range on your side imaging. And the biggest thing I can tell you is the closer it is, obviously the better the detail you're going to get, and the better the return. So a stump, when you've got your range set to 50 foot, looks totally different than one at 150 foot. And, if I'm looking for big objects like out at Lake Erie or St. Clair, where you're just trying to cover vast flats, you can search a little farther. But when I'm looking for detail, when I'm cranking, and we cranking and sonar go, or deep cranking and sonar go side by side. When I'm at Kentucky Lake and graphing ledges looking for schools of bass and shell beds and subtle spots, I'm not trying to scan out 100 feet because I'm just not seeing the detail that I need. I'm following the edge with my Lake Master mapping. I want to be able to have that map zoomed in so that when I see something real subtle, a subtle depth change, just a little high spot, a little bit of shells, just anything irregular on the bottom, that it stands out. So the color palette that you choose can make a difference in that. I like the amber, the darker amber, the amber 2 and the hummingbird palette, but some people like the gray, the greens. Depending on the sky conditions, it may change a little bit. But the most important thing is understand that the farther you're looking with side imaging, the detail is the object you see is going to look smaller on the screen, and the detail is not going to be quite as good. There's a great shot right there. Look at the detail of the railing on that bridge, where as it falls off into the creek channel there. That's from Lake Eufaula. I got that shot last year at a tournament when I was there, and
is that a good spot to fish?
You think? And that's what mega imaging does, is it draws things out, the tree branches, the brim beds. You can see the bluegill sitting in the bed. I can see the fish with it. You see, and people ask, well, what do fish look like? Well, fish show up as real light colored on that amber screen. They'll be almost white or really light colored, light spots. You can see the crappie and branches in a tree, or the bass in the branches of a tree, or the individual shad. And that's why I like down imaging over 2D. So when I'm running, my graph setup on I've got 2 at I've got 1 unit dedicated to Lake Master Mapping and on those 1 foot consoles. And then I've got the, there's a great shot right there of a tree branch. And then you can see the bluegill beds to the left of it.
So Kevin, break this shot down. Show everybody what's on there.
So this is off my Mega 360 on the bow of my boat. And it's, you can see it's scanning around. That is a big laid down tree on the bottom. You can see the individual branches, and the dark black that you see, the higher it is off the bottom, the longer and the deeper the shadow is going to be. See, the black is the shadow coming off it. Just like I talked about that flashlight beam shining into the dark, the bigger, the taller, the deeper the shadows. If you look at the bluegill beds, those little round dimples to the left, you'll see that those outer ones right there, they're pretty deep. They've got a dark black center to them. And when I did this, it was early in the spring. You can see there's no bluegills in them. If there was bluegills in there, you actually see the white spot or the fish right in there. And that's a big deal. A lot of the tournaments we go to, fish in brim beds is a key pattern. And if you see an active brim bed that you actually see the fish around, there's going to be a lot of bass around that. So that's just the difference in the detail that you get with side imaging, or this is, again, Mega 360 on the bow. And what I love about Mega 360, and I know you feel the same way, we talked about this before the show, is that being able to not drive over the top of the fish, to be able to scan to the side, or to be able to scan out in front of the boat, it's a game changer. You can, that other shot, if you can pull that one back up, Kai, the one you had up previous, that is a weed edge right there. On my Mega 360, you can see a few brim beds out in front of it, but you see that hard white weed edge right there. So I can stay back off of a grass line and flip it blindly and know that, I'm 30 feet away or 20 feet away. That's what those rings, I have those casting rings on there on the screen for. So the distance. So if you see an object on your forward facing sonar, like the Mega 360, the exact distance and direction to cast. You know where the target's at, whether it's a dock piling or a school of fish that's moving, and you see everything with it. I think Mega 360 is incredible, the detail you get for seeing structure, and where live sonar has changed the game. And you're not seeing many tournaments now where the pro isn't crediting some kind of forward-facing sonar. Most of the tournaments are Mega 360 or live sonar. They're seeing the fish, they're seeing the structure, and they're making the cast.
I've been fishing Garmin Live Scope for a couple of years now, and the thing that really blew me away, Kevin, is and a lot of people talk about it. I could see the fish and watch them respond to lures, and that's fun. It's actually very educational to see how they respond to different things. But the same thing you're talking about with Mega 360, I found it was awesome for identifying targets. Yep. So I knew I was flipping to the hole in the bush or a clump of grass or individual fish. I knew how far away the break line was. I knew what direction it was in. And then we could actually target individual fish, which is fun. Garmin actually has this perspective mount, which is actually kind of cool. Kai, I know you got an image of that. But what surprised me about this one is when we got into grass beds, the level of detail. And what surprised me is how many fish were actually up on these flats. At first, I thought that that things were, I didn't know what I was looking at, because I'd see literally hundreds of panfish at times. And so it's been pretty interesting, and it'll be interesting to see what the Humminbird's product that's coming out. But live is absolutely essential. But I really want to get back into side imaging with you. I think that is one of these underutilized tools. I think most anglers just don't understand it at a high level. I mean, when you're using it in pre-fishing, what are you attempting to do with side imaging? Locate fish, locate structure, locate what?
All of it. So it just depends. But like you said, we use it a lot for target fishing, and the forward facing sonar is so great because you've got your weapon in your hand, right? But when I'm pre-fishing and I'm scanning, you hear guys talking about it all the time. He said, man, I spend a lot of time just driving around and graphing. Well, we do that. And, if you're graphing a ledge at Kentucky Lake, I'm really focused from on the ledge and up on top of it, but on a lot of lakes, you go to Florida, I'm looking at big grass flats. I'm looking for bluegill beds out there, or shell beds, or a brush pile, or anything irregular at all. So I'm trying to scan both directions. So there's never a time when I'm, say I'm even on a pattern where I'm flipping boat docks. When I pull up to a new series of docks, I've got my side imaging on. I'm always looking out to the side. I'm looking for, something different that I can't see with my eyes. I mean, it's X-ray vision. You just have to utilize it, and I'll see bait. I'll see the grass edges. I see rocks. I see subtle structures. I see little high spots. I can see hard spots, soft spots. And you can see the fish. You can see the bass. A couple of times, when side imaging first came out, and we were using it ledge fishing on Kentucky Lake, I found these mega schools, I'd call them, where you'd graph out there and you'd come to a little high spot on a straight ridge, and all of a sudden they'd be like, you'd see 200 on a spot, and you fire that 6XD out there and it's every cast, and there's really not a lot of change on the bottom, but what's there is those mussel beds. Kentucky Lake is one of those classic structure lakes that it's not about a steep drop or a big break, or it's a big rock pile or anything like that. But I'm looking for all of that. Nowadays, people are planting a lot of man-made structure. You're looking for anything irregular, anything different. And not only is the side imaging a key, but to utilize it in conjunction with your mapping. Again, Lake Master mapping is one of the things that's helped me win more money than just about anything else, because it shows such detail. They actually scan all the lakes with it. And, a lot of these companies are investing more in the mapping. And it just, again, people say, well, when has it gone too far? When is electronics making it too easy to catch fish? Well, I am never going to apologize for having a tool that's going to help me, or to promote a tool that helps other anglers be more successful on the water. You still have to make the cast. You still have to use the right presentation. You still got to make that fish bite. But it does really help when you go to a place like Toledo Bend that's 150,000 acres, and I got 2 days of practice to break it down. I need the efficiency of side imaging to be able to cover vast expanses of water, to be able to scan the bottom, to put together patterns quickly, and to find and duplicate the same thing, that we're seeing. And you said it in a nutshell earlier. What side imaging and forward-facing sonar is so good is identifying targets and helping you follow edges and drops and weed lines, especially up north where we're both from. Subtle structure is everything. It's not these sharp creek channel bends and things like that. We're looking at subtle breaks and subtle grass edges and a little bit of sand grass on a deep flat. And the electronics are so good now that you can see and identify the variations in all that, and you can stay away from it. You have the element of surprise in your favor. You don't have to drive over and disturb the fish. You don't have to spook the fish, especially in shallow water. That's where it really blew me away when I first started using Mega 360 last year, is just how effective it is in even really shallow water. We went to Lake Eufaula right off the bat, and we had these huge rains, and I was catching my fish on a swim jig out of the water willow, the flooded dead water willow, and it was sticking out of the water when the tournament started. But then we got these huge rains. The lake came up, 3 feet overnight, and you couldn't see it anymore. But with that Mega 360, I could see every clump. I was fishing it blind, so to speak. And that's why, we have all these tools, because you're never blind anymore. It's like polarized glasses with your electronics.
You make a comment about not apologizing for this. And the truth is, once you catch a fish, we can release it. We have that option of being able to release them. The one thing I'll tell you about live is what has stunned me is, for years, a fish on a sonar was a little hook. And you kind of always presentation that these fish stay in one spot. And I found with live scope, how active these fish are. They'll come up 10 feet to grab a bait. They'll chase it, stop, run back. They're constantly moving. I was stunned. The first time I ever watched a school of walleyes actually on a lake where they were all swimming in the same direction. In the morning they went one direction, and in the afternoon they went the other direction. You just learn so much more about fish behavior. I think it's stunning. Hey, one of the questions I was going to ask you: what is your strategy in terms of waypoints? Are you using hundreds? Are you using dozens? I mean, what do you attempt to do with a waypoint?
Oh, I'm a waypoint junkie. I put lots of them out there. When I'm side imaging in that, I like to drop a waypoint right on the key spot that I think that, if I go across the ledge and see the school of fish or that brush pile, I want to put that waypoint right on that exact location, because now I can stand back and I know my exact distance and direction from my boat icon to that particular potential target. So, I end up in a lot of cases, structure fishing, especially, putting out a lot of different waypoints on these locations. If you're marking individual stumps or things like that. When I won the Classic back at Lay Lake in the back of Beeswax Creek, there was not many stumps back there, and I had I went through there and side imaged that whole area, marked the whole edge of the creek channel, and put waypoints on every single stump there, and would just stand back and repeatedly cast to everyone and never drive over them, never get too close to them. And that's how I won the Classic. That was the first time that it was just like crystal clear to me how important it is to keep that element of surprise, to stay back off the fish. And, people know that in deep water, but in shallow water, it's super, super critical.
How far is far?
Oh, I'm, more than, 30 or 40 feet for sure. I mean, 50 feet is kind of what I like to stay back at least 50 feet from those shallow water targets.
Well, hey guys, I know we're really going to take a ton of questions next week. So if you have questions, send them right through the comments here, and we're gonna load up next week with as many questions as possible. Kevin, one other thing on mapping. Everybody has these great maps now, Lakeview and Lake Master and things. What are you doing with your maps that is maybe different than everybody else?
Well, one thing that I do at every lake that I go to, no different, when I get to Sam Rayburn, the Lake Master allows you to adjust to the exact lake level. So, I can look on my phone, pull up the lake level. I can go to the lake and I can go out there and adjust it. Say if it says the lake's 3 feet low, 5 feet low, or 7 feet low, or high, or whatever, I can adjust the map to make it correct. And then I use depth shading to kind of highlight the areas that I want to focus on. So this week we're spring of the year, the water's warming up. The fish should be focused around the spawn, and 5 feet and less is a key depth. So I depth shade 0 to 5 feet, or, on some lakes, maybe it's 0 to 3 feet, and I will shade that in red. And then, the next zone from 5 to 10, I shade in, white, and then I do lime green on the next zone. And it's usually, that 10 to 20 foot zone. And it really helps me when you look at that shading aspect to look at the big picture, to see how that creek lays out and where the channel swings closer to the bank and how big the flats are, and just to see those subtle irregularities that you would see if you just were looking at white background with just 1 foot increment depth lines on it. So that's those are some of my key features that I just live by.
We covered a lot of ground today, but that one tip right there produced hundreds of fish for me last year because I underestimated the power of shading and really identified even lakes that I had fished a lot. I found spots that I didn't even think to fish because you could see them on the shading. They just made them more obvious.
Yeah. One of the other things is really pay close attention to the changes where the lines go from tight to wide. And, or if you just see a little squiggly irregularity, even on a small spot on a straight bank, because when they're mapping these things, it shows up there for a reason. And a lot of times it's a bottom composition change. In the Great Lakes, you'll see that a lot of times it'll be a spot where it's rocky. It'll be a hard spot. It'll be a spot where the current has swept some of the silt away on reservoirs and things like that. So those subtle, those classic main lake points or, classic obvious structure get so much pressure now that you want to look for these subtler areas, these, more, and I go in what I call ugly water mode, where I want to look in the map where there's not a lot of variation in depth and look for those little irregularities there, and then actually go through and side image through those zones, looking for something that is good fish holding structure. Some of the best places that I've ever found that they're untapped, that the bass have never seen a bait, they've never been touched, are places like that. What I call from searching ugly water. That's how good the competition is now. You have to spend time doing that. If you have a multi-day practice period where you can do that, I'm definitely going to dedicate time in that offshore summer structure period to looking for that kind of stuff.
Is it reasonable to expect you're going to find smaller schools on smaller structure? I mean, you're not going to find these 200 bass mega schools.
Not usually, but sometimes people plant brush piles like that. Lake Eufaula, for instance, where we just had our red crest. I mean, that lake is it's very old. It doesn't have a ton of structure in it. It's got a lot of flats, and there's so much man-made brush. There's a lot of people that crappie fish there. So you could be on a big flat and all of a sudden there's a brush pile as big as a house that could hold 100 bass, So it's a good, I saw a question come across, say, how often do they update these maps? So they are doing it pretty regular. Humminbird has theirs listed by their versions. So a lot of them, for the region of the country, they're up to version 5, that's 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever it is. So, they sell the latest versions and it's pretty easy to tell, but they are amazing. The mapping in the last 5 years is incredible. I won the Toledo Bend tournament a few years ago, 1,000% because of Lake Master mapping. They had just mapped it the year before that. And I'd pull up to a spot that I saw on the map and not even look at my depth finder and make my cast. Once I had them dialed in, I was looking for those breaks on some of those offshore humps and edges, and it was I just looked for great spots on the map. Paper maps just don't show that. The true detailed mapping that we have now, like Lake Master, and I know a lot of the companies are investing in that, but Lake Master they've really done a great job.
Hey, we got a couple viewer questions I want to get to before we have to close out here. One was Ed Lee asked, when fishing shallow water, do you turn your graphs off? And another question was Steve Blumberg asked, thoughts on sonar ping affecting fish? What are your thoughts on that?
I know there's a lot of varying opinions on that. The one time that I have to put my graphs on standby, and I don't like to power mine off, but I will put it on standby so that it's not pinging. And that's when you have, because now we're running 4, 5, 6 graphs on our boats. And I run 4, Helix 12s on my current boat right now. And because they have the same frequency transducers, when the beams cross, when you get in deep enough water and they cross, they'll interfere with each other. So that's when you definitely want to turn your rear graphs off. The other thing that a lot of people do that for, to put them on standby, is because now these graphs, the screens are so bright and we have so many of them that we're worried about the battery management, and so so I'll put them on standby for that. But I'm not worried. I'm never turning off my Mega 360 on the front of the boat, and I'm not turning off my 2D sonar, and those are my eyes under the water. If I'm not physically looking at that set of units, I'll put them on standby. Don't turn them off though. I don't want to have to take time to power them up.
Yeah, the standby is a great thing. Hey, Chris McVeigh asked a question. How do you choose what color lipless to throw on different watercolors?
Really, it's, in clear water, you want to match the natural forage. In the north, we do a lot of bluegill and crawfish patterns. If you don't know what color to throw and you're fishing a clear water lake, pick a color that matches the background of the bottom you're fishing. If you're fishing green hydrilla, man, watermelon's hard to beat because everything in nature is like a chameleon, whether it's a little bluegill, a crawfish, a hellgrammite, a nymph, bugs, they all blend in with their surroundings. So in clear water, if you're down near the bottom, colors that match the background. If it's brown rocks. I won the tournament at Grand Lake in Oklahoma a couple years ago. I was shallow cranking in the spring, and the water was, stained, but pretty clear. And I just noticed that the rocks were really, really dark brown. I knew that everything that lived in them was going to be the same color. I used a dark brown craw crankbait instead of the standard blackback chartreuse or other colors that other people would throw, and won the tournament. It was matching the natural forage. In dirty water, you want to make it visible. So, that's when you want to throw brighter colors, sexy shad or, chartreuse, colors like that, or even the bright fluorescent reds, things like that in real dirty water to make it more visible.
It's interesting. Throw a bass in the live well, you see how dark it gets pretty quickly. So exactly what you're saying about that. Hey, we have another one from, we're running a little bit late, but guys, I really want to get through these. Kent, I'm not going to even try to pronounce your last name, but would you throw a standard red eye compared to a tungsten red eye?
So I'm a huge fan of the new tungsten 2-tap from Strike King. It's got a different sound, but because it's got the tungsten weight in it, it's a little heavier. It runs a little deeper. And having that tungsten weight in the belly of that bait where it does, it keeps that belly or a little more nose down. So it has a little different fall to it. And that different sound is good. So if I'm yo-yoing the bait and fishing a little bit deeper, I automatically start with that tungsten 2-tap red eye shad. Day in, day out, man, I have caught so many bass on a red eye shad. It's the tight vibration, the flat sides, and all those BBs, that noise that just catches them. So if I'm covering tons of flats and I'm in grass vegetation where, there's a lot to block the view of the fish, and that sound really helps them home in on it. I just can't tell you how much confidence I've got in a standard red eye shad.
Yeah, the lipless are awesome baits. Adam Harvey asks, is there a certain structure that lipless lures work best?
No doubt grass. That's what, grass flats, when you got bass on shallow flats, it's hard to beat it. Same thing in the fall when they start moving in the backs of creeks, especially if you see a big drawdown on the lake and there's not a lot of cover and the bass just roam around and they're starting to just relate more to pods of shad and things like that. There's nothing more efficient than a lipless crankbait like a red eye shad, and then match the size. A lot of times then you want to go to that 1/4 ounce small profile size.
So one last question from Nancy Betting. She says, what's your personal best Smallie? What lure was it on and how long ago was it?
My biggest smallmouth that I've ever put on a scale weighed 7.9. I caught it out of Wheeler Lake, and I caught it on a Strike King diamond shad. That was before the red eye shad even. I can't remember exactly what year it was. Since then, man, I've caught some that are really big ones in Michigan. The smallmouth are getting bigger than they've ever been with all the gobies and the Great Lakes and that. I know I caught a 7+ last year, but I did not have a scale, or the scale I had, the battery was dead, so I didn't get to weigh it. Of course, I released the fish anyway. But the biggest one I've ever weighed was a 7.9.
It's interesting. I think when we went back 30 years and looked at the average size smallmouth, we we're probably looking at 2.5, 3 pounds in a lot of waters. And now you're looking at 5, 6, 7, 8. It's incredible.
These are the greatest days ever of smallmouth bass fishing. It's never been better.
Yeah, it's insane. Hey guys, we gotta close out. Apologize for running a little bit late. We got a really cool show next week.
Absolutely,
we got
man.
Edwin Evers coming in. We're gonna answer questions the entire show. So if you got some questions you still want to ask, go ahead and add them here. We're going to go through these comments after the show is over. We've also got Brian Brosdahl from College of Ice coming on board.
We got to have Brian on. I mean,
gotta have the bro.
He's the guy. I think if I remember right, I think the idea for this show for College of Ice was Brian's to begin with. I think he's the brainchild of this. Maybe him and Chris Russell from Plano.
Yeah, I'm going to give Chris Russell a question, but
always go with the boss.
It's kind of fun, but yeah, I'm looking forward to that. We did College of Ice this year. That was just a blast. Hey, we got to pick the winner tonight for the Plano prize pack. I don't want to forget that. So, Kai, who do we got selected for tonight?
Oh my God, you
go ahead.
Yeah. Brian Silwanazik. Yeah, that's like my guy, my camera guy, Zarzak. You look at his name and you would never guess I know how to say it from that. So we'll call it Brian Silwanzak.
Yeah, I'm impressed. Yeah, you've got it better than I would have. So
yeah.
Hey, Kevin, have a great trip. Drive safe down to next week. We'll be following up with you from Rayburn.
Yep. So I'll be another background again. We're going to be right in the Bass Pro Tour event down there, so you can watch the live stream of that all week. And we're kicking it off, man. I can't wait to get down there. There's a ton of big fish in Rayburn. It's fishing great, so it should be a great week and great way to finish off 8 weeks of fun with you, Steve. I appreciate it.
That's been fun. It's been a thrill. Hey, everybody, stay safe tonight with the storms, and we will catch you next week. Thanks for joining us, College of Bass.
Thanks for watching the College of Bass. Join us for an all-new episode every Wednesday night.